I'm really excited to unbox this because there's another Kindle that I have now. This is the Kindle Paperwhite, you can see, and it's kind of hard to see in the camera. Let me see if I can focus it back there. But it says now with adjustable warm light. So the Kindle Paperwhite now has adjustable warm light, just like the Kindle Oasis. And you might be thinking, why did you get another Kindle for yourself? Well, it's actually not for me. It's for my sister. But she said it was okay if I unboxed it for her. So this is going to be cool because I want to compare it to my Kindle Oasis, which I absolutely love, and see how they differ on design and, well, I guess mainly design for now, because this is just going to be an unboxing. I'm not going to be able to review it because I'm not really going to be using it or keeping it, but I thought it'd be cool to show off. So it comes in this really nice package, a very slim, minimal packaging. I love this design. I like how the Kindle branding is. Tells you that it's in black. Then on the back here, you can see that it says, now with a 6.8-inch display and adjustable warm light for a personalized reading experience day or night. So this is really good. I love this on the Oasis because you can read at night without any light because it has a little bit of a warm light that you can use. And of course, it's thin, portable, store thousands of books, blah, 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 just the usual stuff. So let's go ahead and open this up. So here is the little pull tab. So I'm gonna pull this. And it should just pull off. I kind of wish it didn't pull off like that because I kind of wanted to save the packaging to make it more special for my sister, because it's, even though I'm opening it and she's okay with it, I want it to still kind of feel like new. So I'm going to try to repackage it as best I can when I give it to her. So we open it up. You get this very simple cardboard little holder for the Kindle, and it has a quote on it. It says, "That's what books are for, to travel without moving an inch." Jhumpa Lahiri, the namesake, which I've actually seen the movie. I don't think I've read the book though. And there it says Kindle Paperwhite in the back. Very nice. And that's all there is in the box. You know, it's a very thin and slim box, which I love. And then inside this cardboard cutout, you are going to get your USB-C charger, which is something I didn't mention, but this Paperwhite finally has USB-C, which is what my Kindle Oasis does not have, and I wish it did. It charges with micro USB. But that's okay. I'm really happy because now my sister will be able to have USB-C on all her devices. So now she only needs one cable to charge literally everything. And there it is, the USB-C cable with the packaging. And we're just gonna go ahead and put that back because she is not gonna need this. And this is actually a terrible charger because it's a USB-C to USB-A cable. It should have just been a USB-C to USB-C cable. I don't know why they had to cheap out on the USB-C to USB-A cable, but it's okay. Most people have USB-C cables these days anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. Okay, so let me smush that back in the box there and set that aside. So let's look at what we have here. So it is wrapped in plastic, which is kind of nice, but also kind of bad for the environment. We're gonna go ahead and open this up. Oh my God, I love opening Kindle devices. That's a really satisfying open. And then we are going to slide it out. So, you know, the basic Kindle design really hasn't changed a lot since its inception. I don't even know how long ago now, but I remember I had a Kindle that was not called a Paperwhite at the time. There was no Paperwhite, but it was just called Kindle, like around the time of the Kindle DX, and it looked very similar. It had like like a hamburger menu button on the bottom here, and it was in gray. But you know, the Kindle design is pretty good anyway, so if it's working fine, there's no reason in changing it. You can see a very subtle Amazon branding on the back there. That looks very cool. And then you have this nice display, which is flush with the bezels and the rest of the display. So you have a flush display, which is nice because the Kindle I had so many years ago was not flush. And compare it to the Oasis here, it's the same sort of flush display. Now, one thing I will notice is that the Oasis screen is a little bit smoother and glossier, whereas the Paperwhite has kind of more of a frictiony sort of vibe. It feels more like a rubbery sort of texture, while this one feels glossier like glass. Now this is not rubber and this isn't glass. They're both plastic, but that's just what I've noticed just by touching them. And another thing that I'm noticing is that this is very comfortable to hold. It's a little bit heavier than I was expecting though, and it's a little bit chonkier. Got some chonk on here. It's kind of thick. I mean, it's relatively thin, but it's thicker than the Oasis, at least at its thinnest point, because if you see, the Oasis is very slim on the ends here, and then where you're holding it, the grip is a little chonky and is a little thick. But I kind of like the Oasis design a little bit better because it has a more ergonomic feel, but I would have to use the Paperwhite, I guess, to really make that judgment. But personally, I preferred the Oasis design, and I like the physical page turn buttons, so I don't have to move my fingers that much to turn the page, which is great. So let's go ahead and boot it up and see what we're working with here. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn that on. There comes the backlight. Now, the backlight on the Kindle is really a game changer. I mean, reading at night without any lights on, and you're not having a harsh light in your eyes, it really makes a fantastic reading experience. That's why I really prefer reading books on the Kindle as opposed to having a physical copy, because I don't have to worry about the lighting. Like, the lighting will always be good, and it's not like a super bright light like an iPad, and it's not a super dull light either. But, you know, looking at this actually right now, this is pretty bright, at least compared to the Oasis, so that's interesting. Let's go ahead and set that up. Very responsive so far. Let me bring this closer so you can see. This is incredibly responsive. One thing I will notice is that while this is loading is that this has a very soft back, which is very nice to feel, and it's so smooth and it feels really nice. Whereas on the Oasis, it's like hard plastic on the back. See, it makes that sound versus the sound. Well, I guess it's kind of similar, but trust me by saying that when I say that this is very soft, this is a little bit more cooler and a little more plasticky feeling. So it feels a little bit more premium, but it's not necessarily as comfortable as when you're holding it. In terms of like when it gets cold and stuff. Also, this is very sharp, so it has like sharper edges compared to the Paperwhite. This has, I think, a little bit sharper of a grip, whereas this Paperwhite is very soft and very comfortable to hold. And I'm really, really liking this backlight so far. It's really bright right now, which I think would be a problem if you're reading for extended periods of time, especially at night. I'd want to turn that down, but it still looks really great. Okay, so let's go ahead and set this up. So I decided that I'm just gonna go ahead and use my account because I'll probably factory reset it anyway for her so that it's easy. So I went ahead and signed in. I connected to my Wi-Fi. It's asking me if I want to connect to Goodreads, sorry. So don't create an account for me, that's fine. I already have a Goodreads account. And then now it's just gonna go ahead and load my books after I go through this. No Kindle Unlimited. And this is so responsive, the Kindle devices. You know, it has an e-ink display, so you may not be expecting it to be so responsive, but it really is. I'm not gonna sign up for Audible. And now it's gonna update my home screen. And in the meantime, what we're gonna do is we're gonna bring in the Kindle Oasis and do a quick comparison just to show you what that looks like. And you can see that the Paperwhite is considerably brighter than the Oasis. And personally, I like the dullness of the Oasis better because it's not so harsh on your screen, whereas this seems really bright, almost like tablet level. So let's go ahead and adjust the brightness on the Paperwhite and see what that looks like. So if we go to settings here, the first thing that pops up is the brightness and the warmth. And you can even schedule it for yourself as well. And let's compare that to the brightness that I have set up on the Oasis. So if I go to my settings, you can see here that I had the warmth schedule on. And so now it's a little bit cooler, but it's still not as bright as the Paperwhite. So first of all, one thing I don't like is that the UI, the user interface between the two is different. They should be pretty similar. There's not that much difference between the two devices except for the design, right? Like the general screen is about the same. So they shouldn't change that so much. But I want to go and actually change the brightness. So here it is. So when you click down, this is where the brightness is. So this brightness is at 10, whereas this brightness is at 18. And you can see that there's no auto brightness option on the Paperwhite, whereas on the Oasis, you do have the auto brightness. So that's the main distinguishing factor between the two. So let's go ahead and bring it up to 18. And then you can see, yeah, it gets as bright as the Paperwhite, if not brighter. So that is good to know. So this is where the Oasis kind of comes up on top of the Paperwhite, because you have a little bit more customizability, just the fact that it can do it automatically, whereas the Paperwhite can't do it automatically. It can only do the warmth automatically, and that is scheduling it for you. So let's go ahead and schedule this and see what that lets us do. So if we click on schedule, it sets up a warmth schedule. It's a very exact same thing as on the Oasis, where you can let it schedule to be to have it automatically do it with the sunset and sunrise, or you can manually set in the times you want it to schedule the warmth. Now, this is a really good feature. Again, I recommend this a lot when reading, because it's very nice to read at night. I love it a lot. And I know that like iPads and other things have the same or similar functionality, but reading on an e-ink display itself is nicer, and this is just way more ergonomic than a tablet. So I would definitely recommend that, but we're not going to set that for now. We'll let that be. But just a quick general thing. So let's go ahead and test this a little bit to see if it rotates. There doesn't seem to be any rotating ability, which is something that the Oasis does do. It does rotate, which I appreciate. So if we go to the home screens on both of these, this is what the home screen looks like on the Paperwhite, where you can see you have like a little preview of your library here, and then you have an ad, and then you have like a banner for the Kindle store and learn about the Kindle. And so you can scroll like this to see what's recommended for you, bestsellers, and things like that. Now, on the other hand, on the Oasis, it's a little bit different. So you have this a different kind of layout of your library snapshot, and then it has your recommendeds below here, and then what to read next and things like that. So now let's actually click into the library and see what happens when you click on that. So this is what the library looks like. Pretty standard. You get these cover arts of your books. You have your series grouped, like the Harry Potter series. You can see there are multiple books in this one, so that's where those are at. And then you can scroll down and see the rest of the books in the cloud. And I'm sharing this with my mom, so some of her books are in here as well. Now, if we go to the Kindle Paperwhite, to get to the library, you have to click on this up here. There's no button on the bottom like there was on the Oasis. And then again, you can see the same kind of books that are in the cloud, and then you can filter it by downloaded if you want to see what's downloaded instead. And then you can scroll through your books this way, but you're not going to see as many books. This is not as great of an experience as it was on the Oasis. I think I prefer that a little bit better. But what I do like about it is that you always have on the very top these function buttons that you can touch and always have at your fingertips, and they're always visible. Whereas in the Oasis, there is nothing on the top row. So all your settings and anything you want to adjust, you have to click on this hamburger or this drop-down menu here in order to get to those. So I much prefer the Paperwhite UI in that case in terms of the menus, because it's just so much easier to get to and to always see what options you have, which is nice. And then once you're done, you can go ahead and click back and you should be good. So let's just quickly go into the settings really quick, because I know people are interested in that. So you have dark mode that you can also turn on here. You can also have Bluetooth and airplane mode. If we go to all the settings, it has very similar options to the Oasis. You can go to your device options, change your warmth schedule, your passcode, things like that. But more importantly, if you go to reading options, you can have page refresh, where it refreshes the display with every turn. That's really nice reading experience that way, but you don't need it because it's just going to drain your battery unnecessarily, and it's really not that much more noticeable. And if we go home really quick, I am going to just download one of these books, so we'll go ahead and download that here. And while that's downloading, I'll compare you very quickly to the settings that I have on the Oasis, specifically the reading options. And you'll see here that the main thing that is different is that you have the page turn buttons, where you can change if the top button goes forward or backwards. So that's the only difference, because it has physical buttons. Everything else seems pretty similar. And actually, kind of just looking at the displays, the Oasis display seems a little bit less, seems like a little bit of a lower resolution. Now, this could just be my eyes playing tricks on me because I have the warmth turned on the Oasis. But just briefly glancing at it, comparing it to the Paperwhite, the display seems a little bit worse, but I don't think that's necessarily true, so don't quote me on that. That's just a kind of initial first impression. So now if I go back to my library, see, it's I can't sort it easily by what I have downloaded on my Kindle versus what's in the cloud. So I would have to click on here, this filter, then I would have to click downloaded, and then it would show me only what's downloaded, because really that's all I want to see. And then I click up and then I can see everything that's downloaded. Now if we contrast to the Paperwhite, you can see that when you click on your library here, you can easily sort between everything and just what's been downloaded. So if I click on downloaded, you see that I have this downloaded, and it's a lot easier to get to instead of going through the whole filter process that I had to go through on the Oasis. But before we go, there's one last thing I wanted to show off, and that is this case that I got her. So this is a pink Kindle case, and from Moko, so from a third party, and I just wanted to open it and see how this snaps on, because I don't have a case for my Oasis, and she may not even want a case, but I just thought it could be useful. So we'll go ahead and take this out and see how this snaps in. It should be pretty simple. Just put it in like that. It snaps in pretty nicely, and then you can close it, and now you have a nice little compact Kindle that you can carry with you. And the good thing about it is that it has auto wake feature. So you open it up, and then you can go ahead and swipe to start using your Kindle, and you close it, and then it goes to sleep. So that's about it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this, and I will see you in the next one.